Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome back to tonight's second half. Before we jump into tonight's second half, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and the membership are in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go, and they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's second half, shall we? Tonight's second half, I've got a couple of video clips I want to share with you all, and I've got some very horrifying encounters. Let's get into them. There's a couple different counties in the Adirondacks, and I'm going to share a couple of those different counties with you. The first county we'll look into is called Warren County. Now, for those of you who have seen the Missing 411, David Politis goes and interviews a family relative of mine at the Warren County Sheriff's Office and discusses one of the first 4 or 5 missing 411 cases. And it's pretty deep woods up here. So here we go. Today's first encounter. This was recorded very soon after it happened in our camp journal. It was on the weekend of May 11th, 2002. My wife and I were at our seasonal camp on Lake George for an early season. We had to bed for the night in front of the fireplace. There were only a few lights belonging to the other early season camps across the lake. It was a calm night. My wife was sound asleep. She often sleeps through thunderstorms. I was up throughout the night. I was awake for the sound of the first scream. The first cycle did not wake my wife, unfortunately. The second, closer one did. Something screamed 4 times in the distance. 30 seconds later, it screamed again on our property. We have less than a quarter of acre of land. The time was roughly 2:30. 30 seconds to a minute later, it screamed for the last time in the distance at the third location. The scream was evenly spaced pattern of 4 screams. Each scream was about 3 to 5 seconds apart. The volume was that of human-sized lungs. However, there was no attempt to form words or partial words. The scream did not change in pitch. It sounded much like a human female. There was no sound of a creature crashing through the woods. Please also note that a few years back a similar sound was heard by a camp only 5 down from us. Other sightings have occurred near to my camp. That scream made the hair on my neck and wife's stand up. It was very frightening. Today's second Warren County, New York encounter. May of 2001. I was near Sabbath Bay Point, the Lake George region. I'm not much of an outdoorsman, so bear with me on the description, terrain, etc. After researching the area, I saw there had been quite a few sightings in the area. It was approximately 3:30 when I woke up. 2 friends and I were in a tent. 5 of my other friends were in a cabin about a mile from us. We decided to rough it as much as we could. I went outside of the tent to make a phone call on my cell. I know, really roughing it. My brother gets off of work at 3. I needed to call him because I needed a ride in the morning. I was about 20 feet from the tent. My friend yelled, "I'm trying to sleep." So I walked another 20 feet from the tent. After I spoke to my brother, I saw the time was 3:48. So I decided to use the bathroom. That's when I heard noise coming from in front of me. I was easily scared, as I am not used to being in the woods very often. I stepped back a little and saw approximately 60 feet in front of me a figure coming up a slight incline in the terrain. My first thought was, okay, bear in front of me, run. As I went to run, I noticed it had turned slightly, and the one main characteristic I noticed was no snout like a bear would have, more like a human face, although I couldn't see features, more of an outline. That's really scared me. I ran to the tent and told my friends. They were sure it was a bear, and we waited 10 minutes before going back to the cabin. I later realized that this thing that I saw had a human shape. I got a look at it for maybe 5 seconds. And like I said, I'm not much of an outdoorsman and probably wouldn't know a bear from an ape while in the woods, but what I saw was something unusual. It looked like a huge, hairy man walking up the hill. Fairly blunt, but best way I could describe it. I was thinking it could be a bear on its hind legs, but it wasn't staggering. It was walking. The thought of Bigfoot didn't enter my mind until a few days later, and I have to say I don't believe in such tales that I see in the supermarket tabloids. But whatever it sure was a unique experience. Today's third encounter, August 2000. I was camping with my wife and 2 other couples at Jabel Pond, Hague, New York, near Sabbath Day Point in the Adirondacks. We were having a great time. Yes, we were drinking. The time was between 3:30 in the morning. 4 of the 6 campers hit the sack just before 3. Let me paint a picture of the environment. The lake is shaped like an L on the top of the small mountain, surrounded by pine. Crystal clear water. There's a swamp on the northwest side of the lake. It's a gorgeous place. The 6 of us canoed out to the campsite. Only 3, maybe 4 sites are on the lake. No other campers were there. We did what all young campers do, build a big fire, drink, eat, and be loud. We were doing this till about 2:30, then the girls went to bed. There was only 2 of us standing. We were stuffing our faces before we decided to go to bed. I walked down to my tent. The tent was set up right on the lake shore. I mean, 1, maybe 2 feet away from the water. The tent is square and flares inward at chest level. 2 of the 4 sides of the tent were facing the water, so I climb into my tent, and as I'm just about to lie next to my wife says, "Steve, Steve, Steve." My head hits the pillow, and I am looking up into the tent. I hear water splashing next to the tent, and my wife says, "Something's out there." I hear branches being moved, and whatever is out there is behind our tent. Now I'm freaking out. I'm lying on my back in my sleeping bag, and I look up, and I see an elbow being dragged down the side of my tent. Now I'm shitting my pants. Then I hear a thud, 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 thud of something running away. Also noticed we were loud. I've been camping all my life in remote areas. I know the characteristics and sounds of bear, deer, moose, game bird, and the sound of a fox screaming. Sounds like someone's murdering a baby. Whatever went by our tent was about 6 feet high and bipedal. There were no other campers on this lake, and what the hell comes out of the water at 3 in the morning and walks by your campsite, not wanting food? Today's fourth encounter, the summer of 1992. Each occurrence happened over a 2-week period between the hours of 10:30 till 3 in the morning, lasting only 1 to 4 minutes. The first sounds were that of whirling and swirling whistling, then a deep thumping with a lung capacity of a horse being slaughtered, along with various chattering and screams. To hear this once is to not want to hear it again, but it kept coming back almost every night. Sounding about 200 feet away, looked out the windows with a small flashlight, but could not see anything. I really didn't want to see what it was. I was too terrified. Our cabin is located between Route 9 and the lake, 75 feet from the lake. The mountain is directly behind us was Bloomer Mountain. Sometimes the sounds started far away, on top of the mountain. Then, within a minute, the sound was coming from the road area. It may have been two calling to each other. We do not own the property any longer. This is one of the most beautiful areas in the world, and not heavily populated. I can't remember if it was before or during, but my 2-year-old woke up crying and said the creature woke her up. Today's fifth encounter, October of 92. It was about 6 in the morning. I was on my way to work the Roaring Brook Ranch when something came from the right side of the road out of the woods and forced me to stop or run into it. It was dark that time of morning, so it took a few seconds to get my thoughts together. When I did, I couldn't believe I was seeing it. It was somewhere between 7 to 8 feet tall, at least, with white or light gray hair from head to toe. It was standing 10 to 12 feet in front of my car, directly in the headlights, so I had perfect view. The creature was facing the left side of the road with a slight left twist to its body in my direction. We stared at each other for what seemed to be minutes, but I can't really say how long it actually was. I had absolutely no fear of this creature. It seemed to have a sad demeanor. This creature made no sound at all, like the screams I have heard about. I don't have any reason to believe it was a male or female. Needless to say, I have carried my camera ever since, but I believe that was once in a lifetime incident. I was alone in my car with no other witnesses. I started to tell my mom and sister at work when I arrived, but said it was a bear because I knew they'd think I was crazy. Many months later, I told my family, and sure enough, they called me crazy. Now we'll go to a different county in the Adirondacks. This one is just a little north of Warren County, called Hamilton County. July 1969. We were just going to sleep when my wife said there was a raccoon looking in a small window. The window was at least 5 feet from the ground, with no trees or brush close by. She protested so much that I rolled over so fast and saw something looking through the glass, and it sure was not a raccoon. The next morning, we went looking. There was a small clearing. Also, there was a small stream about 2 feet wide, 7 or 8 inches deep, and we found a heel print at the edge of the stream about 8 inches wide. By the way, this happened in the Adirondacks. This couple were at the same lake, and their daughter had to go to the outhouse. She was gone long enough to concern them. They called out, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm feeding a bear my crackers." The father took a flashlight and went to get her, and saw a furry thing bending over and picking up crackers and eating them. He quickly got his girl, and they slept nervously all night. A follow-up. When spoken with John on the telephone about his sighting from Hamilton County, Long Lake, New York, in '69, John was in his late 20s, early 30s at the time. He describes his encounter as the following. He was at Long Lake at his campsite, named the Pump House, located halfway down the lake on the right bank. He, his now ex-wife, and friend were staying the night in a little cabin along the lake. It had a small stove and a small window in the rear. There was a small Coleman lantern burning for illumination, as the wife's friend would not sleep without a light on. No one was sleeping, just lying around at the time, when at around 11, his wife told him there was a raccoon looking in the window. After about 5 minutes of his wife's persistence, he decided to look. He rolled over fast and saw the creature peering in. He describes it as having a large, conical-shaped head, face very dark and pushed in, with brownish fur around its face. There was no eye reflection from the light, as it appeared to be angled at the window, the face, the back of the cabin. It left a few seconds after he turned over. The next morning he followed the deer trail behind the cabin to a small stream, found one footprint in the mud, approximately 8 inches wide and longer than that from arch to heel. The track was partially obscured. He also told of an incident that occurred before this sighting at roughly the same place that involved him and 2 of his friends while they were bullhead fishing one night. He said it was around 11 p.m. and they heard a loud, powerful scream twice echoing from the surrounding forest. I'm not familiar with this area and can say that it has changed much since that time of my encounter. It is a very wild and densely forested area and would make perfect living environment for any sized creature. Today's 7th encounter, Hamilton County, August 1979. Back in '79, I was upstate hiking in the Adirondacks of New York. I got ahead of the group and off the main trail, watching beavers work. As I walked back to the main trail, I flushed something out of the thick brush. It ran diagonally towards me on the main trail. I could hear the loud thump-thump of feet pounding the main trail, and it was wailing like a woman's scream or something similar. It ran partially into view and was about 4 to 4.5 feet tall, dark brown fur and lighter tips. It was moving fast and upright. I assumed it was a bear cub and got away from the area. I'm not from bear country and only found out years later it's unlikely a cub would run upright for 150 or so feet that I had witnessed. I probably wouldn't have given it more thought, but the sounds I heard are a miniature version of some locations of these Bigfoot sightings. There were some other strange things on the trip, and years later, a friend I work with told me a similar story that happened around the same time of year, 30 miles away. Also noticed the beavers I was watching seemed unusually wary and agitated, if that makes sense. I remember thinking this was right before it happened. The other story, yes, a friend and I grew up in New York. He and his brothers were hunting with their stepfather and heard wild, loud vocalizations right before dark. Being pranksters, they all assumed it was one of the others. They all got serious when the last one of them separated, showed up and said, "What is that?" I think that was year 3 of the brothers went to the movie about Bigfoot, and in the beginning the vocalizations freaked them all out because they swear that's what they heard. Our last Hamilton County, New York encounter, July 2014. I was driving home through the mountains from a concert last night on Route 8 in Hamilton County, New York. At about 12:37, I hit a creature that was carrying a deer with my car. My car is damaged from the hood to the rear by this creature, and I know it is at least injured, and its DNA may be on my car. The speed limit was 55, and I was unable to stop in time. When I saw the creature, who was carrying a deer, about to step into the roadway, I hit the brakes, but was only able to slow down minimally before impact. I did not really believe in Bigfoot before last night, and I am still shaken up and have not been able to share this story with anybody. I wanted to stop and see if the creature was okay, but I was scared out of my wits to stop and get out of the car. The creature was huge, at least 7.5 feet tall. I've seen drawings and such of Bigfoot, and this creature looked similar, but had white around its hairline, and its fur was dark brown, almost black. I'm shaking writing this, and I am in such disbelief that this happened to me. I can't even report the incident to the police, and I don't know what I will tell my insurance company. The car's totaled. The creature crushed my windshield wipers together, broke many pieces of the passenger side, and left smears of dirt and blood all over the rear window. Now we're going to head east to a little county called Washington County. June of 2015. This occurred on a sunny day in June of 2015, mid-afternoon, while we were boating along the eastern shore of Lake George, just above the Narrows. The object we saw was located at approximately 43 degrees, 35.086 minutes north, and 073 degrees, 34.347 minutes west, per a Google Earth view obtained on 5/5/2015. We were about 140 yards away, even though it didn't seem that far, and the bearing from us to it was about 132 degrees true, again using Google Earth to obtain the distance and bearing. This section of the lake is state property and part of the Forever Wild section of the Adirondacks. There are many square miles of wilderness here, and this location is only about 8 miles from the locally famous Whitehall, New York sightings of '76. We were motoring in our 19-foot northeastish in the narrow channel between Sarah Island and Hazel Island, an unnamed rocky outcrop from the mainland. Our intended goal was Fox Island, a short distance away. We were traveling about 5 miles an hour, slightly above idling speed. Engine RPM would be approximately 1,000. There's a part of land opposite of the rocky outcrop, and as it was cleared, a small bay exists on our starboard side. Since I'm always scanning the lake side to side for boat traffic at that point in time, I was looking to the east into the bay, and I noticed movement close on the shore. It seemed that whatever it was caught by surprise as we cleared the point of land. I then got my wife's attention, and she looked in that direction and also saw it. My view was of a very large black animate object that seemed to quickly raise an arm from its side to a horizontal position, then turn away and move back to the north side behind a clump of trees. I then spun the boat around for a better view. Meanwhile, my wife was watching it. Her impression was it was large, dark, upright, and didn't move like an animal. Her view was slightly restricted by the trees, but did notice the object was swaying side by side. The only known animal that is that large and black out in the Adirondacks is a black bear, and we don't believe it to be. This was an observation of short duration, but long enough to impress us. Unfortunately, we can't provide any accurate dimensions or descriptions of the physical details. Even though we are not sure of what it was, we are sure of what it was not. We then continued on to Fox Island, which is about 200 yards from the sighted critter and only about 50 feet from the mainland, and chatted for a bit. Eventually, we got the charcoal grill fired up and proceeded to cook traditional meals of hot dogs and beans, of course, with the appropriate condiments. We do this on a regular basis on the islands of the lake. As we were eating, we got a weird feeling, so we quickly finished, loaded the gear on the boat, and got the heck out of Dodge. We never had that type of experience on the lake before. Really don't know if the events are related. Recently become aware of some of the folks around here have a theory of how our favorite mystery creature may communicate with infrasound, which would explain that feeling we both had. We returned to the area on the 6th of July 2015 by boat with my brother, who is an accomplished photographer, to investigate the mainland. By then, New York City DEC had installed docks in the bay so we could tie up and go ashore. We went to the area where the critter was first observed and noted that there was a small, probably seasonal stream that flowed into the lake. We searched but did not find any tracks or any other signs. However, I recently purchased a trail cam, plan to set it up in that area. Preliminary testing has shown that the motion sensor is very sensitive and wind-generated tree movement will trigger it. I've got a few ideas on how to mount it, but I am still trying to come up with an appropriate bait. Got any ideas? Alright guys, some crazy video clips. I am not affiliated with them. All I'm doing is sharing them with you. And some very crazy stories from the Adirondacks. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Guys, your support is what makes this channel so special and what continues to make it grow and go. It is truly appreciated. With that being said, please everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on the children, the pets, the family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there. Share a little bit of information that we share with each other here on a daily basis with those that you love and care about, and it may just save their life someday. God bless you all.